I lived at 7th and Mason in a yellow house on the corner. This neighborhood is just so white. I can't believe it. Portland was always the whitest city, but, you know, we had a African American, we had a black neighborhood, and this was it. That was my place. The neighborhood was being gentrified. My landlord let me know. And he was honest with me, and he says, yes, this is what's happening, and it's gonna happen, and it's nothing that you or anybody will be able to do to stop it. I used to live up there. Some of the people downtown used to live in this neighborhood. Like the homeless people that I see hanging around Sisters of the Road. And they used to live in this neighborhood. And they would ride their bicycles up and down the street. I don't know where they are now, though.
Broadly speaking, houselessness is an economic phenomenon. It's driven by loss of a job, loss of housing, an eviction.
I think the actual number of people sleeping on the streets have went up 75% than last year.
I got laid off from my job. It was a grant project, so at the end of the grant project, my employer laid me off. We had no way to pay any rent, no way to pay anything.
My first experience of really being homeless, I was employed. I didn't have a place to live. I met up with some people. We lived in a hotel.
I left home because of an unhealthy family relationship.
My father died, and then my mom went to jail, prison, and I had no place to go.
The pain in my whole body would be so much I'd want to just be in a ball. I knew I was not going to be successful in a job where I was needed and I couldn't take care of my own health.
It's not a problem, it's a cluster of problems, right? Homelessness is not one problem, it's not one kind of person.
I think the face of houselessness is changing in disturbing ways.
People that normally have work but they can't afford housing, their income is not compatible to the economic rise in this city anymore.
No-cause evictions are happening in building-wide evictions, where an entire building is displaced when the owner of that building wants to increase the rents dramatically. And now those people are on a market with no vacancies, no low-income apartments available to them. They're going to be living in cars, they're going to be doubling up with families, or they're going to be living outside. And that's a lot of the houses in Portland.
If the typical apartment rent is going up 10 or 12% a year, which is what's happening in Portland, we know there are going to be people left behind in this economy.
The people who are relatively underprivileged in our economic system are, of course, going to be overrepresented among the houseless population. People of color, people who experience disabilities, people who have mental health challenges, Native Americans, women, LGBTQ people. Parts of North and Northeast Portland that have traditionally been black neighborhoods were gentrified aggressively in the past couple of years, causing housing there to be outside of the reach of the residents of those neighborhoods.
Someone who's homeless must have done something bad to be homeless. And that's just not the truth. I try to start my day with a positive thought. Picking a word, you know, like we'll say perseverance. And, you know, meditate with what are these things that embody that. I got this feeling in me that says I'm going to be homeless forever. And it's like, okay, maybe that's not necessarily true. You know, trying to keep that thing from beating me up. I find when I meditate, it helps achieve some serenity. And you know, I'm going to try and keep going and raise myself. I've been sober for 8 years. A lot of people think, oh, you go quit doing drugs and alcohol and boom, you're back to this perfect person that you always were. I'm still me, I still have my mental health problems, so, and I have to face those.
Spending any amount of time outside means you're going to be subject to a tremendous amount of traumatic encounters with law enforcement, with other houseless people, with the house community that's just really unhappy with your presence.
The traumatic part of being homeless is, you know, the mental wear that happens to you is intense. I mean, you're just really are so marginalized that your life isn't worth anything. You can be assaulted on the street by another homeless person and nothing's going to be done for that. That's just the way it is.
It leads to deterioration of mental health that I think no person experiencing any length of houselessness can avoid.
It's really hard to be active when you haven't had any sleep. You are exhausted and you still have to get up and travel with your belongings to get to those basic needs like food, water, shower, laundry. You walk for an hour or two, you stand in the line for an hour or two, you get there at 7 a.m., I might not get my shower till 11.
You have to go eat. Well, the place that you got to go eat that's going to let you eat for free is on the other side of town. So it's going to take you 45 minutes to get over there. And then you're going to stand in line for an hour, and then it's going to take you 45 minutes to get back. So that was all just for a meal. And that now you got to plan for the next one. So you start moving in that direction to go from lunch to dinner. And that was your day. And it's a very hard world to live in. You can't go inside even if you want to. I mean, if you said, I'm done being homeless, I'm going to go to the shelter, you got a 6-month wait list. We were looking at a shelter space of minus 1,700. So, I mean, there's just 1,700 people that have no option of going inside.
There aren't enough beds in shelters for people who are outside who would want them. But there are many people who are experiencing homelessness who don't want them and who wouldn't want them really under any circumstances. They're considered by many to be unsafe, to be unclean.
I left the shelters because there was a lot of violence there. It was a very hostile environment and it exacerbated my conditions.
They take your willpower away from you in order for you to do for yourself. They say, well, you got to be in a shelter this time. You got to eat at this time. You got to get clothes at this time. You got to take a shower this time. And once you do all of that, going back and forth, you're not doing nothing to become productive for yourself. So you depended on them to take care of you.
We don't want any more prisons. Stop filling us up in your jail. We deserve better. We're human beings.
Houselessness is criminal. It's criminalized. It's illegal to be homeless in a very literal sense.
You got a vicious cycle. To shelters, to the streets, to jails, to shelters, to the streets, to jail. That's a houseless person's lifestyle.
If you are unable to access a shelter and you have to sleep outside, that act of sleeping outside is not legal. Sweeps are routine displacements of people that often involve the loss of their basic sleeping material. People lose their medications, their IDs, their documents, whatever they've managed to salvage from the life they were thrown out of when they experienced their loss of housing. A sweep can mean they lose all of those things.
When you sweep us, move along to where? Where can we go?
We moved from Morrison here to Hazelnut Grove because we were pushed out of Morrison. And this is where I am. I started a little tiny garden here.
Accessing services like shelters and the kinds of social services where you have to wait in line to get something, as you know, just that you hold your hand out and you're given this thing, it isn't empowering. It does not give you any agency over your own experience. And there are alternatives like R2D2 and Hazelnut Grove that are empowering.
We came here to Hazelnut Grove, and it's a blessing because it's somewhere to be. So here's the library. We have a lot of avid readers here. Then we also have a shower going up on this side. And that's where the bathroom system is. And Honey Bucket comes out every 2 days and cleans it. building and making, beautifying this space is something that I have always dreamt of.
The housing crisis and houselessness in our community, it's a community-wide problem. The whole community owns it. And that includes, first and foremost, people who are houseless, people who are experiencing homelessness. These are critical members of the community that need to be leading the community towards solutions, and they are. They're doing it in ways that work. In places like Hazelnut Grove, R2D2, they're working together to create community. And that community is the stability from which people are getting into housing, they're getting into jobs, they're getting treatment, they're accessing services, and they're doing it on their own. They're doing it themselves. They're driving that process.
We'll be here 5 years. It's the houseless community helping themselves. Over 400 people got housed. Over 396 people found work. 38 quit hardcore drugs. We had 18 women keep their babies. 19 people doing online education and 2 graduated last year. And it shows if people can build up communities and network and get the proper rest, how productive they can be.
Our police folks from the beginning about Right to Dream 2 have said that's the one corner downtown we never have to worry about. They're policing themselves.
The solution to houselessness is that nobody have a monopoly on what's the right way, but we have a lot of in the meantime solutions.
We're not going to be into outdoor living in an environment like Portland's in the 21st century, but while we don't have enough shelter beds, while we don't have enough affordable housing, we're going to have to do some of this, and that's a good way to do it.
There's a saying among the houseless community here that nothing about us without us. And so that should be a principle that guides the solutions going forward. How do we make the services that we do offer? How do we make the resources we do put into social services work for people experiencing houselessness? The quickest, most efficient way, I think, to find that out is to ask them. We all are victims of the economic forces that are driving people out of their homes. And we all need to work together to address those forces and to make our community more equitable, more just, and safe for everybody.
We're just trying to survive and feel protected and have a place to be. And everybody needs a place to be.